The week after Elias Turner was buried, everyone in Dawson County told Noah Turner the same thing. Drill the well. They said it like there was nothing left to decide. Numbers already settled. Outcomes already agreed upon. No room for any other path. $7,000 to drill, 2 more for the pump. Then electricity every month as long as he kept farming. It pays for itself in a year, the dealer said, boots pressed into the frozen ground beside his truck. Your father didn't do it because he hated spending money. You don't have to live like that. Noah didn't answer right away. He stood facing the north pasture, where the grass had faded under the late winter wind. From a distance, the land looked flat, simple, but he knew better. He had walked it since he was a boy. Always a few steps behind his father. Stopping where his father stopped, never quite understanding why. Your father was a good man, the dealer went on, softer now. But he farmed like it was still 1930. Noah gave a small nod. Not agreement, just an ending. That night, the house felt too big, too quiet. The kind of quiet where every small sound carries. Wood settling in the walls, wind brushing the siding, something in the kitchen ticking as it cooled. He found the box by accident. Back in the tool shed, under rusted chains and a stiff canvas tarp. A small metal case, one his father used for spare bolts, or old cartridges. It wasn't locked, it never had been. Inside, there was no hardware, just a folded sheet of paper. Noah carried it into the house and set it on the kitchen table. The same table his father had sat at every morning before sunrise, drinking coffee, speaking only when there was something worth saying. The paper was thick, drafting paper, county seal in the corner. He unfolded it slowly. It was a map of the ranch, not printed, not bought. Drawn by hand, line by line, in pencil that had aged unevenly with time. Property lines, fence lines, the barn, the old well, the windbreak along the east. And then the notes. Small handwriting, careful, layered over decades. Some lines dark, others barely visible. Dates beside them. Years stretching back farther than Noah could clearly remember. Snowmelt holds here longer than it should. Ground stays soft 3 days after rain. Grass thicker along this line, roots deeper. Noah leaned closer. He could almost see his father out there, boots in the mud, head tilted. Watching the ground the way other men watched the sky. The wind pressed harder against the windows. He kept reading. Near the western ridge, there was a mark, a simple X. But it had been circled. Twice, pressed harder than anywhere else on the map. Next to it, 3 words. Not a sentence. Not an explanation. Dig here.
Noah stared at it. He knew that part of the land. Or thought he did. It wasn't the lowest ground. Not near the creek. Not where anyone would drill. He looked at the date beside the mark. 1978. 2 years before his father died. Outside, something scraped across the frozen yard. Noah didn't move. His eyes traced backward, through years of notes, patterns he had never been taught to see. The dealer's voice came back. $7,000. Guaranteed water. No guessing. Noah folded the map once, then opened it again. Nothing changed. Dig here. Water. No depth. No reason. No explanation. Just trust. He pushed his chair back slowly. The legs scraped louder than they should have. He stood there, map in his hands, the house still around him. Then he reached for his coat. Outside, the air cut sharp across his face. The ground was still hard. Not ready yet, but winter was loosening. Another week, maybe 2. He looked toward the western ridge, barely visible in the dark. Everyone in the county had already decided for him. Drill the well. Spend the money. Follow the plan. Noah folded the map carefully and slipped it inside his jacket. His father hadn't left instructions for a machine. He had left a place. And for the first time since the funeral, Noah understood. The decision had already been made. He just hadn't seen it yet. When the ground softened, he would dig.
Noah started digging 3 days after the ground began to soften. Not because he was ready, but because waiting any longer felt like turning his back on something he didn't fully understand, but couldn't ignore. The western ridge didn't look different from the rest of the land. No marker, no sign, no reason, at least not one you could see. Only the X on a piece of paper, folded inside his jacket. He drove a stake into the ground where he believed the mark pointed. Then he picked up the shovel. The first layer was easy. Dark topsoil, soft from the last thaw, rich with the smell of old grass and time. The kind of soil that had been building itself for decades without asking anything in return. He worked slowly, not because the digging was hard yet, but because he was listening. Every sound mattered. Every shift in resistance. Every change in texture. By the second foot, the soil began to change. Lighter, looser, more sand mixed in. Still normal. Still nothing that proved anything. By noon, the wind had picked up. It came across the ridge in long, steady lines, carrying dust and the faint smell of dry grass. The kind of wind that reminded you how exposed everything out here really was. Noah leaned on the shovel and looked down into the hole. 2 feet deep. Nothing. He could already hear the voices. They told you to drill. $7,000 and you'd have water already. You're digging for a story, not for a farm. He kept going. By the 3rd foot, the shovel started catching. Small stones. Gravel. Resistance that wasn't there before. He switched his grip. Pressed harder. The sound changed. Not the soft cut of soil anymore, but a dull scrape. Something underneath. Something denser. He stopped. Just for a moment. Breathing. Listening. Then he drove the shovel down again. More resistance. But not solid. Not yet. He climbed out of the hole and stood there, hands on his hips, looking down like he expected the ground to explain itself. It didn't. That evening, he went back to the house with dirt under his nails and nothing to show for it. He unfolded the map again on the kitchen table. Same lines. Same notes. Same 3 words. Dig here. Water. Noah stared at them longer this time. Not trying to understand, trying to decide. What if his father had been wrong? It was a thought he hadn't allowed himself until now. Elias Turner had always seemed certain, not loud, not forceful, but certain in a way that didn't leave room for doubt. But certainty didn't make something true. Noah leaned back in his chair. $7,000. A drilled well. A guarantee. Or this.
Hole in the ground. A map with no explanation. A voice that wasn't there anymore. The wind pressed against the house again. Noah closed his eyes. And for a moment, he could see it. His father, standing in that same field. Not digging. Just watching. Waiting. Noah opened his eyes. Folded the map. The next morning, he went back to the ridge. Day 2 of digging was slower. The soil was tighter now. More packed. The shovel didn't slide as easily. Every inch had to be worked loose. Sweat came quicker, even in the cold air. His hands started to ache. By midday, he had reached nearly 4 feet. Still nothing. No moisture. No change in temperature. No sign of anything different. Just dirt. He stopped. Set the shovel aside. Climbed out of the hole and stood there, breathing hard. Staring down into something that looked exactly like a mistake. The land stretched out around him, quiet and indifferent. This was where most men would stop. This was where logic took over. This was where you called the dealer, signed the paper, and let a machine do what it was built to do. Noah looked at his hands. Then at the hole. Then out across the ridge. For the first time since he started, He considered walking away. The thought stayed there longer than it should have. And that was the part that scared him most. Noah didn't dig the next morning. For the first time since he started, he stayed in the house. The shovel was still out by the ridge, the hole still open, 4 feet deep and empty. He sat at the kitchen table with the map in front of him, the same way his father used to sit there with a cup of coffee, staring at something no one else could see. Only now, Noah wasn't seeing anything. Outside, the wind had died down, the kind of quiet that made the land feel even bigger. He unfolded the map again, slower this time, not looking for the X, looking at everything else. The notes. Dates, years, decades. 1939, 1947, 1953, 1961. Each one tied to a small observation. Nothing dramatic, nothing that looked important on its own. Ground cooler here after June rain. Water lingers 2 days longer along this line. Snow melts unevenly, bottom first. Noah read them again, then again. Something about them felt different now. Not like instructions, like evidence. He leaned forward, elbows on the table, tracing the marks with his finger, following the lines his father had drawn, connecting things that had never been explained out loud. And slowly, something began to shift. The X wasn't the map. It was the conclusion. Noah sat back. For years, he had walked behind his father without seeing what his father saw. He remembered that now. The stops that didn't make sense. The long silences. The way Elias would stand still after a rain, looking down instead of ahead. At the time, Noah thought it was nothing, just an old man being slow. Now he wasn't so sure. He stood up, pulled on his coat, took the map with him. The ridge looked the same as it had yesterday. Same wind, same grass, same open sky. But Noah walked differently this time, slower. He didn't go straight to the hole. He walked past it, across the ridge, along the line where the map showed thicker grass. He crouched down, ran his hand through it. The roots held tighter, denser. Not by much, but enough to notice if you were looking for it. He stood again, took a few more steps. There was a dip in the ground, barely visible. Not a low spot, just a place where the land felt different under his boots. He pressed his heel into it. The soil gave slightly, softer than it should have been. Noah frowned. It hadn't rained in days. He knelt, pressed his palm to the ground. Cold. Not the cold of air, not the cold of shade. A deeper cold. The kind that didn't belong on the surface. Noah pulled his hand back slowly. He looked around. The rest of the ridge felt dry, normal, warming under the sun. But here, something underneath was holding on to something else. He stood there for a while, not moving. Then he turned, and walked back to the hole, 4 feet deep, empty, or maybe not. Noah climbed down inside. The walls of the hole felt tighter now, the soil packed differently. He knelt, pressed his hand against the side, then the bottom. Cold. The same cold. Not from the air, from below. Noah exhaled slowly. That's what you saw. Not a guess. Not luck. A pattern. He climbed out of the hole and reached for the pickaxe. The shovel wasn't enough anymore. If something was down there, it wasn't going to give way easily. He stepped back to the edge. Looked down one more time. 4 feet of doubt. And something underneath it, waiting. Noah tightened his grip. All right. Then he swung. The sound changed immediately.
The sound didn't echo like soil. It stopped. Sharp. Flat. Final. Noah froze for a second, the pickaxe still in his hands. Then he struck again. Same sound. Not dirt. Stone. He set the pickaxe down and dropped into the hole, boots pressing into the packed earth. He brushed the bottom with his hands, clearing away loose soil. Gray. Smooth. Unbroken. A slab. Limestone. Noah exhaled slowly. That's it, not water, not yet. But something his father had written about. Something real. He worked more carefully now. No more heavy swings. Just clearing. Scraping. Brushing the surface clean, inch by inch. The stone stretched beyond the edges of the hole. Flat. Wide, old. The kind of rock that had been there longer than anything growing above it. Noah leaned back on his heels. Looked at it. If this was all there was, then the map was wrong. Stone didn't hold water. Stone stopped it. The thought settled in heavier than the dirt he had just removed. He closed his eyes for a moment. For days of digging, for this. He opened them again. Looked down one more time. And that's when he saw it. Not obvious, not at first. A line. Thin. Running across the surface of the limestone. Noah leaned forward, wiped his hand across it again. There it was. A crack. Narrow, maybe 2 inches wide, running along the exact direction the map had marked decades ago. His heartbeat slowed. Not faster, slower. The kind of calm that comes when something begins to make sense. He picked up the shovel, turned it sideways, pressed the edge into the crack. It slid in. Not hitting solid rock, going deeper, into something loose, gravel. Sand. Space. Noah pulled the blade back, looked at it, then back at the crack. For a moment, nothing happened, then, a sound, not loud, not sudden. A quiet movement, like something releasing. Water began to rise, not bursting, not spraying. Just, appearing, clear, cold. Steady. Noah didn't move. He stayed kneeling at the edge of the hole, watching. The water pooled slowly at the bottom. An inch, then another. It didn't stop, it didn't hesitate. It just kept coming. He reached down.
Dipped his hand into it. Cold. Colder than the air. Colder than the soil. The kind of cold that had traveled from somewhere deeper. Noah brought his hand up. Let the water run through his fingers. Clear. No sediment. No color. He tasted it. Clean. Sweet. A faint mineral edge. Stone. Time. Noah sat back slowly, still watching the water rise. It didn't rush. It didn't change. It just kept flowing, as if it had always been there, waiting. He reached into his jacket, pulled out the map, unfolded it carefully. His eyes went straight to the X. Dig here. Water. Noah let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. His father had stood here, seen this, without seeing it, known it, without touching it. And then walked away, left it buried, left it for him. Noah folded the map again, slowly, carefully. Then he looked back into the hole. Water, rising from stone older than anything he had ever known. Not luck. Not chance. 40 years, written in pencil. He didn't shout, didn't run, didn't call anyone. On a quiet afternoon, under an empty sky, Noah Turner knelt beside a 6-foot hole in the ground, and watched his father prove him wrong. And right, at the same time, Noah worked on the spring through the rest of that summer. Not quickly, not with machines, the same way his father had done everything, slowly and with attention. He widened the hole by hand, set stones along the sides to keep the walls from collapsing, built a shallow basin where the water could gather without clouding. Then he laid a pipe, simple, gravity-fed, running downhill from the spring to a small storage tank near the barn. No pump, no engine, no monthly bill, just water, moving the way water always had. By late June, the system was running. 3 gallons a minute. Steady, unchanging. Not enough for the whole ranch, but enough for what mattered. The house, the animals, and 10 acres of land Noah had never been able to use before. He planted vegetables there. Corn, tomatoes, beans, melons, crops that would have been too risky without water. By August, the difference was visible from the road. A strip of green, deep and full, cutting through fields that had already begun to dry. People noticed. Of course they did. At first, they came out of curiosity. Then, out of doubt. And finally, out of quiet disbelief. They stood at the edge of the spring, hands in their pockets, eyes fixed on the water rising from stone. "Where'd you drill?" one of them asked. Noah shook his head. "I didn't." They didn't laugh this time. Word spread. The same story that had been a joke a month earlier started changing shape. Not a treasure map anymore. Not a mistake. Something else. By harvest season, the vegetables had done something Noah had never seen before. They paid. Not just for themselves. For everything. While other farms counted the cost of pumping water, electric bills stacking month after month, Noah counted rows of crops that had grown on something his father had found with nothing but time. Free water changed things. Not all at once, but enough. The dealer came back before the first frost, parked in the same spot, walked the same ground, but he didn't talk the same way. He stood by the spring for a long time, watching. "How much does it give?" he asked finally. "About 3 gallons a minute," Noah said. "Hasn't changed since the day it came up." "All year?" Noah looked down at the water. "I'll know in January." The dealer nodded. Slowly. Then he looked out across the green strip cutting through the dry land. "Your father found this?" Noah shook his head again. He marked it. A longer silence followed. "I've been selling wells for 20 years, the man said. "Never seen anything like this." Noah didn't answer. Because there wasn't anything to argue. Machines found water. But they didn't understand it. That winter, the spring didn't stop. January came, cold settled deep into the ground, the kind that locked ponds, cracked wood, and silenced everything that depended on the surface. But not this. The water kept rising, steady, cold, unbothered by the season above it. Noah stood there one morning, breath visible in the air, watching it the same way he had the first day. Different time, same truth. Years passed. The spring never left. The map moved from Noah's pocket to a frame on the wall. Not as a memory, as a reminder. People asked about it sometimes. Where to find water, how to know. Noah always gave them the same answer. You don't find it in a day. Most of them didn't like that. They wanted a location, a method, a shortcut. But there wasn't one. What Elias Turner had left behind wasn't just water. It wasn't even the spring. It was a way of seeing. A way of standing on a piece of land and paying attention long enough for it to start answering back. Noah looked at the map one evening, years later, long after the digging was done. The pencil marks had faded more, but they were still there. Dates, lines, small notes written by a man who had never tried to explain himself. Dig here, water. It had never really been instructions. It had been trust. Trust that someone would look closely enough, long enough, to understand what had already been written beneath their feet. Out in the dark, beyond the house, beyond the ridge, the spring kept flowing. The source was still there.